Imagine waking up tomorrow to a world where the US dollar is no longer the global reserve currency. No more dollars driving international trade. No more American influence over global finance. Instead, the Chinese yuan is calling the shots. Is this the future we're headed towards? China has long wanted to dethrone the US dollar, but is it really possible? Today, we're diving into the war of currencies that could reshape the world as we know it. Stay tuned to see whether the yuan is truly ready to replace the dollar. In this video, we'll explore the intense rivalry between the US dollar and China's yuan. Over the past few decades, China has made strategic moves to challenge US financial dominance. From increasing its foreign exchange reserves to promoting the yuan in global trade, China is playing a long game. But the question is, how serious is China? And can they really break the grip of the US dollar on the world economy? Keep watching as we dive deep into the data and the future of global finance. To understand the challenge China faces, let's first examine the current state of the US dollar. For decades, the dollar has been the backbone of the global financial system. The dollar is involved in around 88% of all foreign exchange transactions, and nearly 60% of global reserves are held in US dollars. It's the currency of choice for international trade, and the Federal Reserve controls much of the world's financial system through its influence over US dollar liquidity. But here's the catch. The US dollar's dominance doesn't just happen by chance. It's the result of deliberate strategic policies dating back to the Bretton Woods Agreement of 1944. The agreement established the US dollar as the central reserve currency after World War II, solidifying the US's global economic influence. However, with rising competition, primarily from China, some are wondering if the end of the US dollar's reign is on the horizon. Why is the US dollar so entrenched in global finance? The answer lies in a mix of trust, liquidity, and stability. The dollar is trusted worldwide because the US government has established itself as a stable economic power. This has created a self-reinforcing cycle. Countries trust the dollar, which encourages them to hold more of it, which in turn reinforces its position as the world's preferred currency. Additionally, the US is home to the largest and most liquid financial markets in the world, making it easier for nations and corporations to transact in dollars. But as China's economy continues to grow, it's becoming harder to ignore their rise in global finance. So can China really challenge this system? Let's look at their strategy. China has set its sights on globalizing the yuan. They've taken multiple steps to increase its use in international trade and finance. One of the key moves was the inclusion of the yuan in the IMF's Special Drawing Rights (SDR) basket in 2016. This was a significant milestone for China, marking the yuan as a globally recognized currency. Since then, China has worked to encourage countries to settle trade in yuan instead of dollars. Countries like Russia, Iran, and Venezuela have already started transacting in yuan, and China has been building financial infrastructure to support this shift. The Shanghai International Energy Exchange, for example, launched the world's first oil futures contract traded in yuan, a move that was seen as a challenge to the petrodollar system that's dominated the oil trade for decades. But how successful is this strategy? China's economic rise is undeniable. It's now the world's second largest economy, and its global influence continues to expand. The Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, has helped China secure a foothold in emerging markets, offering loans to countries across Asia, Africa, and Europe. In return, these countries often choose to conduct trade in yuan. This global network of yuan-denominated trade is helping China build a solid foundation for the yuan's internationalization. Furthermore, China's massive foreign exchange reserves, which are the largest in the world, provide the country with the ability to stabilize the yuan when necessary. But despite these efforts, there are still significant obstacles that China faces in dethroning the US dollar. Let's take a closer look at these challenges. One of the biggest challenges China faces is the lack of full capital convertibility. While the US dollar is freely traded, the yuan is not. China imposes strict capital controls to manage the flow of money in and out of the country. This prevents the yuan from being as freely accessible as the dollar. Until China loosens these restrictions, many foreign investors will be hesitant to hold significant amounts of yuan, which is a barrier to its widespread use as a global reserve currency. Additionally, China's financial markets are still considered less transparent and less mature than those of the US. Investors prefer markets where they can see clearer regulatory frameworks and have confidence in the stability of the financial system. This gives the US a competitive edge. Will China overcome these hurdles, or will they continue to rely on the dollar to fuel their growth? Another obstacle is trust. The US dollar is widely trusted because the US has consistently shown itself to be an economic and political stable power. In contrast, China's political system and human rights record are a source of concern for many international investors. The Chinese Communist Party's control over the economy and strict censorship laws can create uncertainty. Until China is able to convince the global community that its currency can provide the same level of trust and stability as the US dollar, it will be difficult for the yuan to fully replace the dollar in global trade and finance. But let's look at what's happening in the global shift towards a more diversified financial system. Could this create an opportunity for the yuan? As global trade continues to evolve, the US dollar's dominance is being questioned more than ever. Countries like Russia and China have been vocal about their desire to move away from the dollar. Even major oil exporters like Saudi Arabia have started exploring alternatives to the petrodollar. But will the yuan be the currency that replaces the dollar? Or are we entering an era of multi-currency dominance? What if the US dollar isn't replaced by one currency, but by several different currencies, each playing a role in a more diversified global financial system? China has been strategically positioning itself to be a leading player in the future of global finance. They have massive investments in technology, infrastructure, and digital currencies. The digital yuan, for example, is seen as a potential game changer. With its government-backed digital currency, China could bypass the US dollar's dominance in cross-border transactions. As we look towards the future, the question remains, will the yuan truly replace the US dollar? Or will we see the world evolve into a new system where power is shared between multiple currencies? In conclusion, while China is making significant strides towards challenging the dominance of the US dollar, replacing it is a massive undertaking. The challenges are real. From capital controls to trust and transparency issues, China still has a long way to go. However, the global financial system is changing. The rise of digital currencies, the move towards de-dollarization, and China's growing influence cannot be ignored. So while it's too soon to say that the yuan will dethrone the dollar, it's clear that the balance of power in global finance is shifting. What do you think? Will the US dollar continue to reign supreme, or is the yuan on its way to becoming the world's new currency? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insights into the future of global finance. Thanks for watching.